Live puck time on WagerTalk TV for February 5th. We have 3 games in the NHL today. So Carmine and myself, Andrew McGinnis, will break down those 3 games. Sides, totals, props, you name it. We'll try and give it all to you guys here on the show. Carmine, was a busy night last night in the NHL. Frustrating for me as it was a one-on-one night going into the late game, and my team total backfired on me as it hasn't really been lately. 3-2 Sabres. Usually, if the Sabres are going to beat any team, I figured they usually need 4 goals to get there. They don't get there with 4. And I have the first period over in the Habs game against the Sharks. So many chances first period. It ends 1-0. And then with 50 seconds into the second period, we see a goal. Those are frustrating when you see first period over bets and immediately a goal scored in the second period. But I'm feeling good about these 3 games today, man. How are you?
Yeah, Andrew, I feel the frustration. It happens across all sports. Sometimes I've got like some Saturday soccer games in which I have like a first half play, and then a minute into the second half is when they score the goal, and you're like, you couldn't have done this during the 45 plus minutes of injury time. But yeah, it was a full slate of games, a few surprises along the way. And I think 9 of the games stayed under the total. A lot of 3-2, 3-1 type of games, a few that were some surprises, and there's not much left as we head into the weekend hockey wise, and then we have the Four Nations Cup. I want to address a couple things, Andrew, because I try and respond to some of the comments, not only in the live chat but also in the video when it's posted, and some guy. was like, why the hate on the Four Nations? You must be like a Putin whatever lover. This has nothing to do with it. I just think having a tournament mid-season with 30 games left in the NHL season is a dumb thing to do. Do it in the off-season, give players a chance to. But I would hate to be a fan of a team like Colorado, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Washington Capitals, the Winnipeg Jets. They're having great seasons, and then they lose a player in this tournament who gets injured, and we're seeing some players pull out of the tournament as well too. So it has more to do with, if you're a fan of a team, this nation stuff can stick to the Olympics, to the World Cup, to summer tournaments or before the season starts. Let's not get players injured mid-season. So I wanted to address that part of it. And then someone wanted to know why I have Calgary hate in yesterday's live chat. I don't. I would love Calgary to beat the Leafs because I probably have, hate's a big word, but I probably, of all the Canadian teams, I think Toronto is right up there on as the first one that I probably don't like. And it has more to do with all of my friends who are diehard Leaf fans, who are just incessant every year that this is their year. They're planning the parade. It's a 5-year plan, and this 5-year plan has been going on since 1967. So we're past the 5 years. With that, Andrew, saying, you're a Habs fan. You Montreal fans get it from the Leafs and vice versa. But today's card, we're going to talk Boston and the Rangers, Edmonton and Chicago, Montreal and the LA Kings, all big prices. All huge prices. So here's a task for you guys in the live chat, because I have no plays on today's card. I'm completely passing. Anything I like, I'm going to mention on the show. Who is the most likely team tonight of the Dogs to pull off the upset? I'm gonna look at the live comments. This is for the live show people. Who's the most likely to upset today? And tomorrow, if it actually happens, tomorrow I'll pick one of you guys and send out some PuckTime swag. So there you go. There's your motivation. You got to like one of these underdogs. Is it the Bruins plus 150, Chicago plus 230, or Les Habitants of Montreal at plus 200, Andrew? Who's your most likely before we get into the Bruins and Rangers?
I mean, we could get into it because my most likely is actually the Bees. So, I like the Boston Bruins here, Carmen. I got the number locked in right now at plus 170. So I think it's a pretty good number Here's the deal. There have been some teams that have really made some strides lately that have really, really kind of changed the way that they play. One team would be the New York Islanders, who have really improved the way they're playing hockey right now. Another team would probably be the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, what a run since hiring Todd McClellan for the Detroit Red Wings. But when you look at this New York Rangers team, Carm, part of me kind of looks at this team a little bit and just thinks to myself, okay, they got JT Miller. They're playing better hockey here. But do they deserve this price tag? I mean, look, I get it. They've had a pretty tough schedule as of late. There's no denying that. And previously, when they had an easier schedule, they were winning all those games. But, I find that both these teams are a lot closer to equal than the odds are currently dictating. So we have to ask ourselves, these days in the NHL, how much do we really care about home ice advantage on a game February 5th, kind of, the middle point of the season or, 2/3 of the season? How much do we care about home ice advantage? When I look at this Boston Bruins team, I see right now that Jeremy Swayman and the goaltenders for this team are starting to find their rhythm a little bit. I see that the team is buying into more defensive concepts a little bit. That game that they lost against the Buffalo Sabres, I think that had to have been a wake-up call for them. They lost to the Jets following that. The Jets are a great game. The next two games after that, they beat this very Rangers team, as well as shutting out the Minnesota Wild. I like the way this Bruins team is playing right now. And when I take a look at some of the defensive metrics for them over the past 2 weeks, they are right up there as far as one of the best teams expected goals against. As far as expected goals for, actually near the bottom of the list is the New York Rangers. So you trade away some couple guys. Obviously, you get JT Miller back. And I worry right now for the Rangers that their shot percentage has been really good, but they're really not creating all that many chances. And Carm, we're going to talk a lot more about Four Nations, probably try and do some content a little bit with it. If you are an American fan and cheering for these American teams, there's got to be a couple players, and I'm looking at the New York Rangers roster, where you're asking yourself, is this guy really on our team? And Chris Kreider is probably one of them. I don't know if he deserves a spot on the team. Some of the star players that used to be stars on this Rangers team, like Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, they haven't exactly been stars this year. So I just think the Bruins right now are playing with motivation. This game is huge as far as the standings are concerned. I'm never one to recommend this, Carm, because I don't like the idea of turning plus money into minus. I don't like when people do this in baseball or hockey. But I think the plus 1.5 could be a good bet here on the Boston Bruins. Splitting your bet with plus 1.5 and the money line on the Boston Bruins, I see this one being a tight contest here. What are your thoughts? I know it's kind of a rapid revenge angle, but as we've seen a lot lately, rapid revenge isn't an automatic W for the team that lost the next time they play.
No, it certainly isn't. I think you look at that 6-3 game, and while the final score, you look at it and you're like 6-3, oh, the Bruins handled them. These are the final XG numbers from that game, Andrew. 4.27 to 4.24. They generated, combined, these two teams, 8.5 goals of XG. The final score is 6-3. The problem is Rangers need to stay out of the penalty box. And, normally they're a pretty good penalty killing team, but the Bruins killed them on the power play, 3 power play goals in that game. You look at some of the advantages, obviously, that the Rangers had in that game. The shots on goal pretty much were actually the same, 25-25 in that one. The scoring chances for 38-30 for the New York Rangers. High danger chances 19-13 for the Rangers. The Rangers had, if you're just going from an analytics point of view, the better of it, but the 3 power play goals did them in. So they need to stay out of the box. At home, Shesterkin's confirmed. It looks like it's going to be Korpisalo. In that 6-3 game, it was Shesterkin and Swayman. So we'll see. I have to believe it's likely going to be Korpisalo in goal tonight for this one. I like the Rangers. I'm not going to play minus 180. Even in regulation, I don't want to take it because you lower the price probably to about 110, 115. But the Bruins are a type of team that can get a game into overtime, grab their 1 point, and then try and go from there. And then that play is dead. The Rangers win. The Rangers win. You're betting your idea of the Rangers winning in theory wins, but you took them in regulation and you lose because they won it in OT. The total sits at 6. If anything, I would probably look at if this game even mirrors the last game of taking the over, but I don't think it's going to. I think it'll be a lower scoring game, and that probably favors your idea, Andrew, of splitting it and taking the +1.5. A 2-1 game, a 3-2 type of game gets you there on your +1.5, and especially more so, it gets you on the money line as well too. If it's the Bruins who are coming out on top by that goal, so for me, I'm just going to lean the under in this one. I just can't see how these teams generate as much offense as they did in that previous game. And again, power play goals did come into it. I think there was 4 in total. I think the Rangers had one as well.
Yeah, it always is interesting, Carm, when you get a chance to look at a game that these teams just played, right? Because you can really dissect it, see, if the numbers, if all the numbers that you and I look at add up to kind of be what the actual game sheet ends up saying, or also looking at some of the goaltenders and being like, okay, these guys are playing pretty well right now. We'll see if it goes away. And, right now, the mixture of I think goaltending is at its best that it's been in the NHL in a couple of years. Like, we keep talking about how close these games have been. Yesterday, I was talking on the show about how many 5.5s. We had double-digit games, I think, Carm, right? And we only had 3 6.5 totals. But I think goaltending is at its best right now, and not just starting goalies. We've got most teams, if you're a decent team, you have a decent backup behind you as well, which is definitely helping things out. So it definitely is more important than ever for us to be checking these websites, looking at the starting goalies and checking on things. I'm just amazed, Carm. I'm having a lot of fun watching this playoff race take place. But the worst part I'm finding is over the past few weeks, I've been bringing up these odds to you on the show, and when you and I are talking off air about teams to make the playoffs, and now I'm getting FOMO. And that's the worst part. If I'm tracking all these odds and I didn't jump in on any team, like the Detroit Red Wings were plus 850 2 weeks ago when they were at their absolute bottom. And now they're on like a huge run. They only have, I think, 3 or 4 regulation losses under their new coach. They're playing well. The New York Islanders are playing well. Some of these teams, and then the Calgary Flames, you mentioned at the top of the show, a team that nobody really thinks about as a playoff team, but there's a possibility, and I'm not saying this could happen, but there's a very strong possibility that every team in Canada besides my team could make the playoffs, and that would be kind of disappointing. But goaltending right now is at its peak, and all these games are really close. So I'm never a +1.5 kind of guy, Carm, but maybe in some of these games with so much wild card and playoff implications, the +1.5s, could be a pretty good bet. But it's exciting right now, and it's cool is that coming out of the Four Nations, all of these wild card and divisional games are gonna mean so much to each team.
Yeah, they are. There is no roster freeze that I know of during the Four Nations, so we could see we could see some deals happening through the Four Nations. It is so interesting, Andrew, and I'm going to get back to teams and streaks in a second, but it is so interesting that with the NHL and the salary cap going up in 27 in 26, 27, it's going to probably be at like almost like at an all-time high. The contracts that are coming up for renewal are unbelievable. Like Connor Bedard, his contract his entry level contract when it expires, he's going to get a ton of money. Connor McDavid, July 1st, when his contract comes up, he's going to set the market for the NHL as far as the amount of money that they are going to pay him to remain in Edmonton. And then there's plenty of other players along the way. Pittsburgh, are they a buyer or a seller during this? Kyle Dubas has to think about this. Brian Rust, there's players that they likely could move. Sidney Crosby's salary comes into it. So, Andrew, it is going to be. I think these next few weeks we're going to see some early moves, kind of like the NBA, where we get a lot of stuff happening as far as rosters go. But until the trade deadline gets here, definitely going to be interesting. And during the Four Nations, Andrew, we're going to do we'll do because I'll have a lot of time to look through team schedules. We'll do a futures show where we talk about props and anything that might have some value at this moment and not compared to the start of the year, of course. So we'll see how that goes. Andrew, Chicago and Edmonton minus 280 plus 230. I'm going to say this because I know you have the answer to this, Andrew. How do you kill a streak in the NHL? Because there's teams with winning streaks. Winnipeg 7-game winning streak. Detroit Red Wings 7-game winning streak. But trends. How do you kill a trend?
How do you kill a trend?
You're like, I don't know the answer to it. By
You play a
discussing
bad
it.
team? I don't know. You jump off of it. Somebody mushes you because I know the trend you're talking about, and I know you're going to be on it
Yeah.
again. You got to be on it.
Yeah, you have to be on it. So I'll talk about it. This is a trend that it's been a while since this one has been in play because they've been on the road. But it is how do you kill a trend? Or a streak? You talk about it on the show. The Chicago Blackhawks, 21-5 this season at home, 21-5 to the first period over, and 11 straight overs in the first period for Chicago at home. At home, Edmonton Oilers 8-2, their last 10 road games to the first period over. Is there a bet on the first period to end 0-0? Because we are talking about a streak that is supposed to continue, and you know what happens. So that's going to be my play. I'm going to take the over and hope that I don't mush the streak. Give me over 1.5 minus 135 first period. Where are you going with this game?
Carm, what about the gift prop? Goal in first 10 minutes. The gift that keeps on giving in Chicago. That one could be good because you get even better odds there, like that first period over. And a lot of times we're seeing goals early and often there. Chicago Blackhawks first period team total over a half goal minus 130. Oilers team total first period over a half goal minus 255. So kind of interesting here seeing the first period be minus 140, but the winner of the first period be minus 240, what that number is there. Very interested to see how this Hawks team comes out because they just got slaughtered, and I mean beat down by the Florida Panthers. This team, it hasn't been easy for them. It seems like they go through it. They have a rough go for a couple games, and then they play a team they catch off guard, and they come out on top. But the good thing is, I will say about this Hawks team, there have been a couple games lately and a couple bright spots for them where they've kept games close. And they actually did upset the Lightning, and their game against the Hurricanes was relatively close. But when I look at this Oilers team right now, I just don't really see them being a team that's going to have letdown spots. I really don't, because they're finding ways to win. They're finding ways to get the job done. However, I kind of feel like this is one of those games that we could see go under the total. So if this is a game that we see at home or the Chicago Blackhawks get the last change, get some matchups of their choice, you guys know that I've fallen in love with these team totals. How about an under on a team total? And I know this one might sound a little bit shocking to you guys. Oilers under 3.5 plus 105. How many times have we seen teams go into Chicago and just fall victim to the letdown? This team has not been a letdown team, and I don't usually think they're going to be one. But for me, when I look at certain teams, like the last time out, when Minnesota played, I look at them and I think, okay, when they lose, they turn on their defensive game. And I'm not comparing the Hawks to the Wild, but I know that when the Hawks get beat down, it's an embarrassing feeling. It doesn't feel good. So it's almost like, would you guys rather take the under 6.5 or take the team total under. And that's kind of where I'm going to go here. I know it's kind of a risky move, Carm. I got a lot of plus money on the show today, but I think that we're going to hopefully see the Chicago Blackhawks have that park the bus mentality, realize that you can't go goal for goal, first to 4, first to 5 wins against this Oilers team if you want to be successful. And we have actually seen the Hawks play in some 3-2 games as of late. So we'll see what happens. But after that game against the Leafs, after the game against the Blues, we'll see. I don't think they're much of a letdown team, but I'm curious to see if they can maintain that intensity level against this Hawks team. They won't really be too happy after their last loss. I'm rolling the dice with another plus money play here. Team total under 3.5 plus 105 for the Oilers, Carm. Probably can't watch the game now with a play like that, but we'll see what happens.
Listen, I get it. These teams have played twice. The road team has won both games. The one in Chicago, Chicago actually got off to 2-0 lead at home in the first period. The Oilers came back and won that one, and then Chicago won in Edmonton. There was only one goal scored in the first period of that game, and that was by the Chicago Blackhawks in their eventual win in Edmonton. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if this trend or streak continues. This is one of those days where I feel like the Thursday show, we're going to see some messages in the chat, and someone's going to be like, you know what? I just parlayed all 3 underdogs and they hit. I'm so happy. If you parlay all 3 underdogs, Andrew, you're getting almost 24-1 on your money, 23.75. A $10 parlay bet would pay $237.50 if you took all 3 underdogs. I'm not advocating taking all 3 underdogs tonight, but if the first 2 hit and you got the Montreal Canadiens and LA Kings, you can cash out, which I think is a terrible feature, or you can hedge it, which I think is a little better feature that you can do. Books don't give away free money, so that's why the cash out feature I never agree with. If you manage your bankroll, you just put your plays in and try and get them home. With that said, Andrew, props playlist time. Do you have a couple winners for us?
Yeah, well, we're in bounce forward mode today, Carm. Not bounce back. We're in bounce forward mode today after 2 prop losses yesterday. Both guys landing on 2, so that was a little bit of a disappointment as far as the props are concerned. Guys, appreciate all of you that joined me yesterday on the $5 Tuesday play, my 5% NFL bet. But it is now back to regular price of $35. So if you guys want that, you can join me with that, or you can get, of course, a 7-day pass, or there's still time to take advantage from one big game to the next, one full season special, $23 a week. If you guys want to join me, get all of my plays, NHL, UFC, CFL, MLB, every single thing I release. We're off to a pretty good start to 2025, and feels weird even saying 2025. I'm still getting used to that, but you guys can get that package from me over at WagerTalk.com right now, or just get that $35 5% play, 8-0 in the NFL playoffs so far. Let's hit that big one in the big game on Sunday. All right, 2 player props for tonight in the NHL on the small slate. The very first one will be, I talked about liking this Bruins team as a live dog, so I'm going to take a player prop on the Bruins. Brad Marchand, a forward from the Boston Bruins, over 2.5 shots on goal. As much as this Rangers team has improved, still don't really trust them defensively. They rely a hell of a lot on their goaltending. They rank 29th in the league in shots on goal against. This team gives up a ton of shots. Their defensive play has not been very good. And honestly, their forwards don't back check whatsoever. They might have talent offensively, but I don't really see a lot of two-way hockey from those forwards. I think we'll see a lot of shots from this Bruins team, and I love the fact that with Marchand, we're still getting just 2.5 as the number. The next one, hey, call me a homer all we want. It's second half of a back-to-back. We have Patrik Laine from the Montreal Canadiens here, and this is a crucial game for the Montreal Canadiens. After a win yesterday against San Jose Sharks, they're going to play a really tough team in the Los Angeles Kings. Anybody following the Canadiens right now knows that Patrik Laine was recently demoted in the lineup after some tough play and after the coach didn't like how he was forechecking and playing hard. Well, that's happened on a lot of other teams. And I feel like, Habs Nation's kind of turning on Patrick Laine all of a sudden because he has one 5-on-5 goal, which is worrisome. But I think in a back-to-back situation like this, his shot and his ability to make plays and the fact that he's out there on every single power play, to get 1 point with him at plus 105 is a number I can't pass up on, because this is kind of the biggest buy low number we're going to be able to get on Laine to record a point. For a guy out there on every single power play and his peers are minus 140 and 150 to get a point, I have to lock him in tonight at plus 105. I do like goals in that game tonight over there in Montreal. But guys, the big play, if you're interested in my stuff at WagerTalk, is the 5% NFL big bet. It's a player prop, and we're 8-0 so far in the playoffs. All right, Carm. It's time to talk about the Canadiens. The favorite segment you've been looking forward to. I know I've been looking forward to it. What a stressful game that was last night. I'm driving home before the game talking to you about, hey, I need a big win here for the Habs. And the game winner is a shorthanded goal from Armia and Evans. Those two guys have been all-stars for the team. And both of them are either potentially probably going to both resign or both get moved at the deadline or the offseason. But a very, very weird game last night, and now they have a back-to-back. And one thing about this Canadiens team, as they do every year, they have a Super Bowl back-to-back. So if it's the weekend of the big game, they play a back-to-back every year. So they have a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back, and then a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back, which is not easy for their last 4 games before the Four Nations. I obviously know they're the big underdogs here, Carm. What are your thoughts going into this game?
It's obviously the back-to-back is worrisome for this team because they don't normally fare well in back-to-backs. Again, you're if you like the Kings, you're priced out of it. I wouldn't even want to take the puck line in this one. I'm actually going something that I haven't done in quite a while on the show is taking a player prop in this one and taking a shot prop. Kevin Fiala right now, or Fifi, apparently, as he's known by his team, his nickname. Over 2.5 shots for him, Andrew, is about minus 140-ish for him. You can shop around. There are some 130s on the over 2.5. In the previous game against Montreal, it was his second lowest amount of time on the ice at 14 minutes. He's only had one other game where he had 13 plus minutes of ice time. He's usually in that 16 to 17 minutes of ice time. He had 6 shots on goal in that game against the Canadiens. Maybe you get a tired Montreal team. Maybe LA takes it to them and tests that rookie goalie. It seems like the Kings have been on the road for the better part of 2025 thus far. Everything looks like road games for them, with a couple of home games mixed in between. So I'm going to take the Fiala one. I think if you like the Kings and you think they're going to fire a lot of shots on goal, Fiala's going to be a big part of that as well too. So give me Kevin Fiala over 2.5 shots minus 1, whatever you can get it at 140. I wouldn't go any higher than 140, 145.
Yeah, he's an absolute shooter. He will shoot from anywhere. He's somebody that I would not talk anybody off any player props for. He's some guy that has the green light every time he's out there for the Los Angeles Kings. And yeah, as you mentioned, the travel has been a lot for this LA Kings team, so I'm sure they're happy to be home. Last night's expected goal numbers, Canadiens and Sharks, 3.97 to 3.96. That's tight. 3.97, 3.96, Carm. That's literally as close as you can possibly get as far as XG is concerned in that game. A ton of chances created for both teams. The one thing I will say is that it's nice that the Canadiens have a backup goaltender finally. And I know I've said that multiple times, but for their backup goalie to be 5-1-1 with a 2.10 GAA save percentage of 926, it's definitely something that kind of can bring confidence to you. Darcy Kemper, 15-6-6, 2.12, and a 921 save percentage with 2 shutouts. He's been pretty solid for them as well. looking at this game with the 5.5 as the total, it kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit, Carm, thinking to yourself, man, you got one team that's a minus 250 favorite. You have one team that typically struggles when playing a second half of a back-to-back, and yet we're getting a 5.5. And, one thing I've always noticed as a Canadiens fan is the Canadiens struggle against defensive-minded teams. Last week, they lost to the Winnipeg Jets. They lost to the Minnesota Wild. They lose to a lot of veteran teams. I don't think they've won a game against Pittsburgh this year. They haven't lost. They haven't beat LA, I think, in like 2 years. They struggle against teams like this. It's hard for them to score. But I also think that teams like LA, they kind of get the lead and then they sit on it. They're not really teams to get the lead and then continue piling it on and piling it on and piling it on. So you can take the under 5.5 if you're interested in the under, because it kind of does make you scratch your head. Why are we getting a 5.5 here? But I'm going to do the same thing I did with that Oilers game and see if I can go 2 for 2 here, Carm. Some of the dogs are going to come through. Some aren't. I'm not 100% confident the dog's going to come in this game. That's for sure, because they used a lot of energy last night. Under 3.5 goals, minus 120 for the LA Kings. And I think the LA Kings could certainly still win this game with 3 goals. That's what I'm looking at here. When I look at this game, I don't have it in me to back my Canadiens. I truly don't. But this LA Kings team, look around the whole league. How many other teams can you confidently say can win a game by scoring just 3 goals? Like, I was fuming yesterday when I lost my Buffalo team total. I was like, are you kidding me? This team is going to win a game with only 3 goals? That's unheard of for Buffalo. But for LA, it's not really unheard of at all. It's something that they're definitely comfortable doing. And until Dobish has a bad game where he gives up 4 or 5 goals, I'll be happy to bet on him and his goaltending abilities. So LA under 3.5. It's my way of taking the Canadiens without you guys telling me I'm actually taking the Canadiens by taking LA's team total under, Carm.
Andrew, I'm glad you guys have a second goalie. Hopefully this guy works out. One of my favorite Montreal goalies, and some of the older guys in the chat will know, this is before your time, but he played from the Canadiens from 1990 to 1994. And his nickname was actually Red Light Rasico, Andre Rasico. Andrew, 350 goals against average, 880 save percentage for Red Light Rasico. Here's some of his numbers real quickly. In his first year, 14.21 goals against average. Okay, it was only one game, but still 320, 316, 339, 444. This wasn't in the golden age of goals being scored. This was in a time in which you had the lawyers, the ambulance chasers, they called them, because if you rear-ended someone, they put the brace on your neck. Red Light Rasico had that brace on his neck every start, Andrew, because he would just turn around and watch that light light up. The golden age of betting Montreal overs was great back then in the early 90s. With that said, Andrew, let's get some show free plays out. I'm going to go right back to, I have nothing up today in NHL. The plays I liked are the ones that I mentioned, the under in the Rangers game, the first period over in the Chicago game, and as far as like this Montreal one goes, the Kevin Fiala shot prop. Those are only 3 I like. They won't be client plays. They'll just be ones that I keep an eye on. Passing on the day. There's no soccer going on, but I am taking Arsenal in the EFL Cup. Minus 130-ish, guys. They are playing at St. James Park against Newcastle in League 2. So that's a soccer play that I'm taking today. I'm going to go with the Edmonton Oilers. The first period, over 1.5, minus 135. Andrew is the show-free play. And I'm going to spend the rest of the day working on NFL props. So I'm going to send it over to you, because you have a big weekend planned. But what do you have up at WagerTalk right now, and give us a winner?
Yeah, so far, just one NHL play tonight that is official and made my card for tonight in the NHL. But we'll see. You know me, Carm, the more I stare at the card, the more I start to love it. So we'll see if more plays get added. But yeah, guys, that big play in the NFL. Look, I don't have a lot of big bets in the NFL. I don't have a lot of 5% plays in the NFL, but 8-0 in the playoffs steadily. All of them but one were prop bets. And the only one that wasn't a prop bet was the money line bet on KC 2 weeks ago. So let's rock with this player prop. I'm not picking a side in this game. That way I get to enjoy the game from a fan and viewership perspective. But I have a prop that I really think you guys should join me on. So if you joined me yesterday, you got it for $5. If you missed out, you can get it for $35, or you can get that 1 year special, $23 a week is what it works out to be. I'm going to be selling MLB packages. I'm going to be selling CFL packages. You're going to get all of that stuff included in that 1 year deal. My show best bet, though, is going to be the Boston Bruins. This team has played well their past 2 games. I understand it's a second half of a back-to-back, and as Carm mentioned today, we're probably going to see Jonas Korpisalo, which does hurt the Bees a little bit, of course, not having Swayman. But I still think there's a ton of value on this Boston Bruins team at a big plus money. I locked in plus 170. I love that price against the New York Rangers. Also, wouldn't mind taking that plus 1.5 as well, looking for a real close game. But we're back tomorrow on PuckTime, powered by WagerTalk TV. All kinds of games tomorrow and the rest of the week before the Four Nations break in the NHL. So, guys, find all of Carmine's plays and myself at wagertalk.com. Enjoy the games. Best of luck. We'll see you tomorrow right here on PuckTime.